Hey guys, it is Saturday, February 22nd. Um and let's see. Bitcoin's at 96,600. Solana is at 174. I'm going to keep track of those two numbers on these live kind of podcasts. And I've decided I'm not going to do any more pre-recorded videos. It's too time consuming. I'm not going to use, I like Riverside, but too time consuming. I'm just going to go with these live short videos, kind of giving my take on where things are at. I think I can, and I like it better too, because they can hop in the chat and ask questions. So this is going to be the format going forward. So if you're just starting this podcast, Bitcoin's at 96,600. Solana is at 174. I want to kind of focus on those two numbers. I don't care what the price of ETH is, as we'll sort of talk about. I don't think ETH matters anymore. And really, I think we've completely changed the narrative here, right? The narrative used to be, 6 months ago, Bitcoin is the only coin. We're just going to sit here and hold for 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, we're all going to have Lambos, right? That was sort of the Bitcoin maxi narrative. And I think the narrative that I've seen, or at least for me, is no. We are going back into a full tokenized vision like we've never seen before. That tokenized vision is going to happen mainly on Solana. And yeah, sure, Bitcoin's going to do well, but it's not. This is no longer driven by Bitcoin. We don't have a Bitcoin president. We have an AI and crypto president. And Bitcoin's going to play a role in that, but we're not going to be a down under blues. We're not going to be a sort of Bitcoin pure maxi world. That world just doesn't exist. So I want to focus on the world that actually does exist. And we had this, collapse of the meme coins. I say collapse, right? This Millet, Hayden, whatever his name is, meme coin disaster. And you know what's interesting is nobody's even talking about it anymore. So we've gone from, hey, go Mugator. We've gone from memes are horrible, they're scams, blah, 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 Melania coin to literally 3 days later, nobody cares. And that's what I think. I think that's accurate. I don't think anybody cares about Argentinian meme coins. They have a half-life that's about the same as the half-life of the Argentinian meme coin. It doesn't matter, right? And so, in fact, we have a meme coin here, this Gomu Gator, and in the audience. And, look, I think we're going to be more of these meme coins. Dogecoin didn't die. Shiba Inu's doing great. So that there's going to be more meme coins. And most importantly, though, I don't think meme coins are the most important thing here. The most important thing is that we've moved into an ecosystem very quickly, an ecosystem where everybody is getting a little taste of Solana and the Solana ecosystem, right? And, I certainly was not aware of it. I had not really been a user of Phantom and Radium and Jupiter and everything. But, it's kind of like when you look at ChatGPT for the first time, and you're like, you can't unsee it. You're just wow. And I got to tell you, Solana right now, for whatever you want, however you might want to hate it, actually works really well. And so unlike ETH does not work at all, right? And so I think, ETH may not die. It may just sort of slowly fade into obsolescence, but I'm very, very bullish on Solana here. And as I kind of said in a few texts, but I just want to reiterate here, if you go back to 2024, January, Solana and ETH were running about the same level of daily active addresses, daily active users, right? It's a proxy. And now, all of a sudden, Solana is running at almost 10 times ETH. So that's an enormous move, 10x in a year. And it's also running at 5x Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's kind of trudging along at 800,000 transactions a day. Which, by the way, I remember even back in 2018, it was sort of like doing 700,000 transactions a day. So the number of transactions is not increasing with Bitcoin. So despite all the hype about Lightning and everything, Bitcoin is not something that, we're not doubling in terms of Bitcoin users in every 5 years or anything like that. It's not happening. We've got more Bitcoin users, but those Bitcoin users tend to buy and hold, and they don't do a lot with their Bitcoin. I'm one of them. I don't use most of my Bitcoin that much. I do try to use Bitcoin as much as I can. I try to pay people in Bitcoin. I try to orange pill people. But it's a slow slog. So I just want to say, my biggest thing is I think that we're going to a world very quickly where if you walk into an average bar somewhere in a city near you, you are going to see, and you ask, how many people have a phantom wallet? That's going to go from 1-2% right now, 2 people out of 100. It's going to go to like 50 people out of 100, right? We're going to start seeing this ubiquity of wallets. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, right? Because if you have the majority of people have the wallet, have a standard wallet that can take your token, well, then all kinds of things are possible, right? The restaurant can have its own coin. You can send some coins to the guy sitting next to you at the bar. You can pay the bartender a little tip with coins. You can do everything, right? And people will say, well, I can use Visa. No, you're not going to tip the bartender with the Visa. I mean, you could, but it's not the infrastructure that we're looking for. That's not Web3. That's not the world where the internet finally has this extra thing that was missing from it all the time, which is value. That's the only thing that's missing from the internet, is a means of distributing value electronically. And I think we have to drop the religion that Bitcoin is the only solution to that. In fact, it's not the solution to that. Bitcoin is not going to be the solution to peer-to-peer payments. Satoshi couldn't, he's not like Harry Seldon in the book Asimov, where he can see the future for hundreds of years. Satoshi saw maybe 10 years, 5 years, 10 years. I think he got very freaked out with the whole Silk Road and CIA stuff. So, I don't even think he even saw that. So it's really hard to tell what the future is going to bring. And I think, this was an attempt at building a very great peer-to-peer currency that couldn't be debased. It has turned into a store of value. I think that's great. I think it has massive upside still. But if you want to kind of actually live a little bit, and if you're young, you're not going to make your fortune by taking your savings of $5,000 and putting them into Bitcoin. That's not going to make you rich. It's a great investment for people who have some money, but it's not going to make you rich. So I think if you're my age, if you're maybe a little younger than me, and you've got some money, right? It could be whatever it is, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, and you just want to grow that money, Bitcoin is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. If you're young and you want to make your mark, well, there's not a lot of stuff to do in Bitcoin, right? What are you going to do? You're going to build another Bitcoin wallet? Okay, you're going to work on Lightning. There's very few and far between the options in Bitcoin, but in something like Solana, there's tons of opportunity. And I think none of this would have happened if Kamala Harris was elected, right? So the world changed on November 22nd, November 5th, and January 20th. The world has completely changed. And now we're in a world where laws are going to get rewritten. And more importantly, there's not going to be this enforcement layer. Now we have Hester Pierce, who actually is the voice of sanity at the SEC. And I actually look forward to what the SEC is going to say for the first time ever, right, on digital assets. It's going to be a good, it's going to be good. So I'm super, super bullish on this Solana-based ecosystem. While there are other coins and other coins may benefit, there's going to be sort of, Rob mentioned Aptos. I'm not really super familiar with it, but it's the team from Facebook worked on that Libra project, that other Libra. And, you have Sui. These things might do okay, but I think the current winner, it looks like, is the one who actually has the mind share of Solana. So I believe that everything else is kind of a long shot at this point, including ETH. I think ETH is going to be, I really don't think ETH is going to make it as far as getting mass adoption at this point. I don't think it has anything to do with this hack. I just think ETH with MetaMask, with the fees, with the UX, it's not going to make it. So, morning asteroid. So that's my view on this thing. So how do you play it? Well, I think there's two things you can do. First of all, I think, and I need to take my own advice here, I need to buy some more Solana. And I'm probably going to do a buy this weekend. Really would like to buy some Solana, and I have to see if they have the staking in Solana, because Solana has some staking yield too, right? And I think we're going to get to staking yield in these ETFs. So I would not mind, there's a number of new Solana ETFs that are coming out. I wouldn't mind buying a Solana ETF with some money. I definitely want to have a position in Solana, a 7-figure position in Solana. I think I probably will start edging into that this weekend. I think it's getting Solana at 174 seems like a really great buy to me. And I think, I can see Solana getting to 1,000 this year, right? So that's like a buyback. Bitcoin getting to 500,000 this year seems much more of a stretch, right? Josh is saying, I don't think the ETF stay. Okay, well, I know they had some apps on there were some ETH apps that were staking. ETH that's one way to play it, would be to just bet against ETH, right? I definitely think the ETH is going to get flipped by Solana this year. I would say that chance has better than 50-50 chance. So, I think if Solana goes to 650 right now at this current price of ETH, it flips. We're about a 3x. So I think that's a pretty good bet, pretty good risk return. That could be a really good bet. But I'm kind of generally bullish, so I don't really want to do these kind of spread bets. I feel like that's kind of getting too complicated. I'd rather just own a little bit of Solana, against my big Bitcoin bags, which are, I got a little bit too much in the pure Bitcoin house right now. So I wouldn't mind taking some of my Bitcoin, swapping it for Solana, and some of my other financial assets that are kind of in a different bucket, right? And with those kind of stock assets, purchasing the ETF. So that I have to wait until the Solana ETF comes out. I'm convinced we are going to get the Solana ETF. Yeah, somebody's saying down under blue, saying if Bitcoin gets to 200K, I'll be thrilled. I will too. Look, I'm thrilled that it's at 100,000, right, or close to it. Yeah, stupid coin, 28 million. One thing I will say is people always get focused on the absolute peak valuation of these meme coins. And these things tend to be completely unsustainable, So the fact that stupid coin got, I think, it to $40 million valuation, it got there for what? 10 minutes, an hour, not much, right? And some people, not me, sold. Some people actually made millions of dollars on that stupid coin. Not me. But I mean, I'm not saying I made zero. I did not make zero, but I had no. First of all, I had no thought I would make anything on that stupid coin. But it really opened my eyes, right? That really opened my eyes, and it's kind of like you have to have something like that open your eyes, because I'm kind of a traditional investor guy, right? I got my eyes opened on Bitcoin because I met Tom Lee at this conference in Bermuda in 2019. And I had owned some Bitcoin, but there was an orange peeling moment where I just was like, "Holy fuck, Fred, you're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking total retard. For not putting like a big chunk of your net worth in Bitcoin." And there's a big chunk, but it's still a small chunk, right? Except now, I went up from 5K to 100K. So I 20x my Bitcoin. And you put in a reasonable chunk and you hold on to it, and it 20x's, and it becomes a big chunk of your net worth, right? So that's kind of my Bitcoin journey. But with respect to Solana, I had all this kind of programming, maxi programming in my brain. And I'm still trying to like deprogram the brain, because I still think Bitcoin, power law, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm not abandoning that, but I'm sort of saying like, I'm kind of at the sort of same level with Solana that I was with Bitcoin in 2019. I'm sort of like, okay, Fred, I know you love Bitcoin, I know you love stocks, but you got to take, some percentage. And I don't know what that percentage probably should be, something like 10% in my view. I think that's probably what I want to do, is get to 10% of my crypto allocation to have it be Solana, And that's it. I don't need any other tokens really. And, I may have some little things here or there, but that's the bulk of the way I see the world, is Bitcoin Solana. So that's why I'm gonna try to do these little live things. It's super time efficient for me. I can just turn on record. I don't have to, figure out whether it's uploaded or not. It just goes to my YouTube immediately. So anyways, yeah, that's the thing. Solana rails versus some other rails. Well, you need something, right? So, you need this sort of standard. AI needs a standard. So it needs some standard that's really fast, that's really, it's relatively cheap. I mean, Solana's not completely cheap. During peak usage, Solana can cost 30 cents a transaction, right? And I've seen Bitcoin at 30 cents a transaction, but it's fast, right? So, you get, even during peak periods, a lot, it doesn't slow down. You don't have that CryptoKitties thing. So, yeah, I mean, there's other really great technologies, but it doesn't, they got to get adoption, right? So that's why I think right now it looks like Solana's winning. And, Facebook just didn't win because they had the best tech team so much. They won because they got their foothold in the door through the colleges, and then they just nuked the entire industry from that vantage point. So I think, whether you can improve on Solana or not, I think you probably can, right? And I just would like to signal out my friend Jack Levin is building a blockchain called X1, which is a fork of Solana, has some improvements on it. He has reduced significantly the amount of money that validated. That's one of the major improvements, I think, in Jack's implementation, is that it doesn't cost a lot of money to run a validator. Right now, if you're going to run a Solana validator, you could be looking at $200,000, to run a validator. And in X1, you can run one for next to nothing. So, whether X1 will take off or not, I think it'll take off in some form, right? And if Solana's at 100 billion, I don't know, maybe X1 gets to $1 billion. So I think it could be interesting. Little plug for my friend Jack. I'm definitely going to have. Hey, good morning, Thomas. I'm definitely going to have hey, I'm going to try something, Thomas, if you're up for it. I'm going to try sending you a link. I can invite some link. I'm going to send a link to my friend Thomas Young. Let's see if he can get in. Young, let me just send him a link. The good thing about this restream is you can kind of send a link. So Thomas, I just sent you a link. If somebody else wants to come up, I'm going to send a link to Asteroid if he's around. There we go. Okay, so now I sent a link to Thomas and Asteroid. We can, kind of have a little bit of a talk. Oh, here we go, Thomas. Thomas, how's it going?
How are we doing, Fred?
Good. Hey, how do you like this format? I like this live video format. I think it's kind of cool with the chat.
Yeah, it's nice just to spur it up because sometimes typing it out just takes too long.
Yeah,
it allows you to riff. But I'm interested in your intellectual journey on this. Why the Solana rails and why not? And then really, like, what are the indicators that your thesis will start to manifest? So, because to me, I look at it more from like I want to understand the technology, but I look at it like ecosystem politics. Like, if Solana is going to be a transactional rail system, who loses? Is it Swift? Is it politicians who don't want to give up control of the fiat system? How does that play out? Because those are also factors to consider. It's not always.
I was on this really interesting space last night with a bunch of guys, and we were talking with Peter K. I think his name is, really smart guy, and we're talking about sort of the same question. And one of the things that everybody keeps on asking is, well, we're looking at all these kind of sort of useless activities, right? Like meme coins, right? We're watching, the evolution of Melania coin. It seems so absolutely idiotic. And I remember looking at, I think Bill Atkinson was talking about the internet, and he's like, well, the internet's pretty amazing, but he goes, what's even more amazing is that we've grown. The main applications on the internet are not even payment. It's sharing pictures on Instagram.
Yeah.
Right? And that kind of resonated to me because it's sort of like, wait a second. We've grown, a quarter of the planet is on Facebook and Instagram doing stuff that really is, you could argue it's meaningless, right? We're just shooting the shit, we're talking, we're doing these various things, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense, right? It doesn't fit into Harvard Business School 101, thing. So I kind of feel like when you think about Solana and you think about crypto, I think that you're going to, I do feel like the killer apps maybe crazy things. And another example of that is TikTok, right? I mean, if you told me people are going to watch one video, a 30-second video of some guy dancing,
that's crazy.
Scroll, and you're going to have another 30-second video of somebody doing something idiotic, I would have said that will never work, right? Yet, I look at the younger generation and they're just glued to this TikTok, So, I think I think if you sort of think about this rationally, you get to the wrong place, right? Because you get to the idea that, well, how is this going to replace payment or this or that, right? And really, what we're trying to get is we're trying to find what do us, we're kind of like these status seeking monkeys, at the end of the day, right? I really believe that, we do a lot of stuff that just basically we're trying to find other monkeys to mate with so we can spread our DNA. But not everything we do makes a lot of sense. And, so what do I think is going to happen with Solana? I think Pumped Up Fund was one application, right? But, I do think there will be the TikTok of Solana. You know what I mean? I do think there will be the Facebook, and it's not going to be like Facebook, just like TikTok was not like Facebook. TikTok emerged out of nothing, right?
So Fred, let's go with this idea and say, because my reaction, and I think you're challenging that, was I'm looking in the rearview mirror and seeing how can this solve old problems like the SWIFT system. But there's this new issue where you're saying, no, wait a second, there's going to be, we already have this established with Instagram and everything. We have people just sharing things, or they never shared this before. It wasn't like people were swapping pictures before this. Now they do it all day.
Right.
So now we have this issue of AI emerging on the scene, and the economics of sharing data it has always been one-sided. So Google, Facebook, Netflix, they all make money on your data, but
Right.
it's all one-sided. Now you can see with AI, you can see data syndication framework models, and the rails that you're used to exchange that information value can be done on these kind of systems. So think of the idea of the politics of data, which is where I, as a user, I may start to share information through the AI systems into the ecosystem. And it could be as simple as I took a picture at a restaurant that I was at. I have a lot of followers, and they take 20% off my bill.
Right.
Executing all of that now is a completely new framework.
Well, let's just go. Let's talk. I like that you brought up AI, but let's just think about a different thing. What if we had these AI agents that work for us and that use payment? That you're kind of giving them some prepaid credit cards, and you're sort of saying, hey, agents, go do your work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I could see those agents, and right now that's pretty tough, right? It's pretty tough to kind of get any AI to do anything for you. You know what I mean? Like, you can ask it questions. It's sort of, we're in that pre-interface. We're like, Rock, what do you think of this? Well, write me a business plan, write me this, right? But once we get to the point of, okay, agent, what I want you to do is take this money and do something with it, right? And you're probably going to be interfacing not with humans, but with other agents, right? And now I think that mode is that could really take off, right? These smart agents. And I think that.
So think about the agentic architecture of the AI, right? Where we give it agency. And now think of the regulatory side. I capitalize my AI, agentic AI, where I can go out and give it decision rights against an asset base. As that AI works with other AIs to achieve goals for me, is each of those transactions, are they taxable?
Well, here's where I think you probably want to make sure that those transactions are not necessarily taxable, right? And so what does that mean? They're probably going to be US dollar, right?
Yeah.
Right. So what's the most likely currency for those transactions? It's probably stable coins, right?
Yeah.
That probably is. Now, the Europeans will have to deal with it because, those stable coins are not their currency, right? And we'll probably need some new rules saying, well, if you have a whole bunch of stable coin transactions, you don't have to declare that, right? Yeah, you don't have to declare reams and reams and reams of transactions, all that go to zero.
Right.
And so I think we solve that with a general omnibus tax thing that says, if you do crypto transactions under 10 grand a year, You don't have to report it,
So
And
I think this agentic AI that's going to come out, where we give decision rights, in the corporate world, when I do the consulting, it has a strong, lot of policy prohibitions for doing it, right? You come out of Wall Street, so think of these four organizations: legal, regulatory, risk, and compliance.
right.
These are all powerful organizations in especially a regulated environment. They will not allow agentic AI to be put in production systems without fully understanding it. So there's a whole policy side of this and understanding and the regulatory frameworks that allow it. But on a personal level, you look at the capability of the technology, and I've seen some of this agentic AI for coding. It's and I know you and Ben have been playing around with it. It's pretty wild what you can do.
Here's my coding experience. Okay. Now, I was a coder, right? I wrote a very successful commercial piece of software with my brother, right? And I'll just tell you, the vision of that was, I started this company with my brother in 1992. Windows had 3.1 had just come out, right? I decided to build this painting program on Windows.
Right.
And the program ends up becoming a big hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up selling the company for about $20 million with no VC, right? To Macromedia, which eventually gets bought up by Adobe, right? So I go from coding, and it was coding in C++, right? Borland C++.
You came up with the layering on the image generation.
Yeah. So basically, we were doing this combo of photo editing and painting, right?
Right.
So we were like, we had sort of realistic brushes like calligraphy. We had a Van Gogh brush. We had an oil paint. It was really good. And so we sort of studied, what is an oil paint. So you can get tons of stuff. I've done it now, but it was really novel at the time, And we sold our software for $99. It was in like CompUSA and Egghead and package shrink wrap software, And we sold. The company was around a couple of years, and we sold. I think our first year we sold $1 million worth of software, and then the second year we sold maybe two, and so we sold the company, but on a PE basis, it was like we sold the company for 15 PE. You know what I mean? It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we got this crazy valuation.
In today's world, you would have gotten a lot more money.
Oh, I know. We were like, and my thing was, when we sold it, it was like, wait a second, I'm making $1 million a year as owners of this company, and we made $1 million last year. We're on track to make $2 million this year in profit.
Yeah.
And so, like, why should I sell it to you? And they're like, well, we'll pay you, $20 million for the thing. I'm like, well, 20 million today versus running this thing for 8 years to make 20, or seems good, right?
There you go.
Right.
Is that when you bought the castle in France right after that?
Oh, way later.
Yeah.
My first company, I did 10 of these companies.
Yeah.
I did 10. Okay. And, and that was not my big hit either. I created the largest game site on the internet in 2000. It was called iWin.
Did you do anything else with your brother, or just that one time?
That was the only thing.
Yeah. What's he doing now?
He is what's he doing? Not much. He's in North Carolina, kind of semi-retired.
What does he think about your Bitcoin ventures? And
he has no Bitcoin, zero. He hates Bitcoin. He thinks it's a scam.
Really?
I can't get him to buy a single Bitcoin. Nothing. Zero.
That's crazy.
It's incredible. And like, he had this property. He owns a couple of houses and stuff. He had this property. He sold it in January of 2024 for $1.5 million. Right. And I was like, Bitcoin's like 15,000. I was like, well, why don't you just sell and buy 100 Bitcoin, Richard? And he's like, buy 100 Bitcoin with my property. Like, that's crazy, Fred. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, you wish he did it now.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like he would have had he would have had close to $10 million on that house, right? Which he sold that. I mean, so but he still thinks it's going to go down, and I'm gonna regret it and everything. So that was my big. I can't. I'm not good at orange pilling people. So I
Me
feel like
neither.
the orange pilling thing is like either you get it or you don't. You know what I mean? There's something that has to like bang you, especially if you come from TradFi, in my opinion.
I see Asteroids joined us here.
Hey, what's up, guys? Good morning. How you doing? Happy Saturday. So, yeah, I'm not super interested in the Sol stuff, but I think your main use case is instead of Tether like running on Tron, it's going to be switching to Solana, and the main reason is it's faster, better, and easily accessible. That's kind of like your main use case, right?
I would say no. Look, I think that there's
the one I do think of is that I'm not a maxi, but I'm more Bitcoin, so people get angry when we talk about this stuff. But the one I do see is like Taylor Swift and all these big stars launching their own sort of like Taylor Swift coin or whatever, and then offering like discounts to people and special tickets, and you know what I mean? Like, to me that seems like a plausible use case.
Look, so that's right. We literally just saw that with Trump coin, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me that seems like a legitimate use case.
No difference between Taylor Swift and Trump, other than Taylor Swift's better looking. But the coins are essentially the same, right? And I would say,
but the difference is he's not offering anything though.
What? Right?
He's not offering anything. Like it would be cool if you were like, hey, if you buy Trump coin, you get we're going to randomly select 5 people to visit the White House. Like, think about the value in that then, right? It actually has a utility.
Do that, right? But you know what? Now he will probably be able to do that.
Yeah.
Well, then it's not just a speculation, right? Like there's a use for it. Like, you'll get discounts on this or whatever, right? Like that to me is a legitimate actual use case of this technology.
Well, I think you got to look under Gary Gensler's SEC. He criminalizes all use cases. Like, you want to have a use case? Well, you got to file a Reg D. You come in and talk to us, and maybe we'll throw you in jail, right? Like that was Gary Gensler's kind of approach. Under the David Sachs approach, it's going to be, we'd like you to use stable coins. If you want to use stable coins, we definitely want you to put them in backed up by U.S. Treasuries. And you know what? We may not say what you're doing is not a security, but we're sure as hell not going to prosecute you. In fact, the guys who prosecute, that team's fired. So, we're in a zone where you're going to be able to do all the kind of things that you could have done in 2017, 2018. All those things you're going to be able to do now. And but except the one big difference is it's actually going to work. Because none of that stuff in 2018 or 2017 actually worked. It was, you could create a coin, but trying to convince people to use MetaMask and wait and buy your coin on some exchange and stuff, and it didn't work. Now it's going to work. Now you're going to have. I mean, imagine you have. Let's just focus on the Taylor Swift coin. You have the Taylor Swift coin with some utility. We don't even have to get into what it is, right? But that coin is available on Solana. You can use that coin in the Taylor Swift app that connects with Solana, right?
Exactly.
You're telling me that thing's not going to be successful? I mean, like that thing is going to be incredibly successful. Every teenage girl in America is going to want that Taylor Swift coin in that Taylor Swift app. So.
And Fred, think about the recombinant innovation that comes from her taking it to the next level, because she's going to obviously be extremely successful in that Taylor Swift ecosystem, but then she's going to be able to market the participation in that to other players. So now she cuts a deal with Starbucks.
Yeah. And
Starbucks has their thing. And now you have recombinant token combinations that create even different value. So in order to get the Taylor Swift favorite Starbucks drink, you need to present your Taylor Swift token plus a Starbucks token. And the combination of those two unlocks this new drink you're going to get at Starbucks. The line will be out the door.
It'll be out. Look, my wife likes, there's this chain here called Erewhon. I don't know if they have it over where you guys live, but it's kind of this fancy grocery store. Like everything is like twice as much as it should be. But, you know, and it's just filled with the scene of kind of rich millennials kind of buying, you know, just completely overpriced merchandise. But anyways, they've got this Hailey Bieber smoothie. And, you know, everybody loves going in there. I want a Hailey Bieber, you know, like, and this is like the thing in LA is to go to Erewhon and order your Hailey Bieber. You know what I mean? And it was designed by Hailey Bieber. And, you know, if you got some Hailey Bieber coins with your Hailey Bieber drink, and you could redeem them for more Hailey Biebers, I mean, you know, or whatever, right? Or a chance to meet with Hailey Bieber. The possibilities are endless, right? Once you cut down the regulatory moat and the regulatory obstacles, and once you cut down the technological obstacles, like you have to wait, you know, 10 confirmations, you know.
But also think about this. Again, I go back to the politics of data. Users are now going to be able to take some control of their digital activity and their digital footprint. So today we have influencers who get paid to do certain things, and it's almost an analog construct. Now X is, formulaically paying people who are contributors, but you're going to take that to the next level, all the way down to these innovations where, depending on who you are, what you do, what your profile is, you may get a life journey in the world differently than somebody who is similarly situated but doesn't do the same things you do. Right. You know, if, like I said, if I do an Instagram picture from X, Y, or Z place, they may be interested in the fact that I did that because of my profile.
Right.
And they may even encourage you, say, come, you know, they reach out to you and say, like a restaurant, hey, tweet that you're coming here or post on Instagram you're coming here, and we'll give you a free appetizer for dinner. And I'm like, I might as well go there for dinner tonight. That's the kind of behaviors that are going to drive some very interesting innovations here.
My only point is I think it's happening. It's going to happen really quick.
Yeah.
It's going to be like this Trump coin. It's going to come really quick. I think we're gonna see a lot of stuff this year. And yeah, I mean, I would not want to own a little bit of Solana just because I think I think all this, and some of these things are going to have, there's going to be coins and things connected to some of these apps. So I think the app layer, you know, it's sort of like, you know, everybody in the internet was always thinking the money's going to be made on Cisco. Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Switches, right? The picks and the shovels.
Let's go back to
Amazon, you know, and Facebook, you know,
but let's go back to that point of view. Is the Solana token going to see the appreciation, or are businesses that innovate on the Solana ecosystem where the money's going to be made?
It'll probably be the latter eventually, right?
Yeah.
But you know, I think we have to get there, right?
Yeah.
You know, it wouldn't surprise me if it was some kind of AI business that worked with Solana. You know what I mean? That we just can't even see that far. It's just, you know, the only thing I can see is a little bit like, I can see now that we're gonna be working in this very fluid token world, and who ultimately is going to win, I don't know. But you know, I definitely think that, you know, Solana, you know, $100 billion market cap, has some pretty interesting growth possibilities from here, and I just don't want to I don't want to totally change my position. I like, one of the things that worked for me very well with Bitcoin is just not having any change, right?
Yeah,
you know, that works. So I mentally have kind of my model that I will not change. You know, I'm not going to. I'll just sort of change a little bit, but I want to change it more than, say, buying some call options or something. I want to change it more substantially than that.
The adoption increase and the market cap increase of Bitcoin yields directly to a number go up outcome on the Bitcoin token, right? Because it's an inelastic supply. That's not necessarily the case with Solana. It's more complicated than that. So the,
it is, but in some sense it's simpler, right? Because
how so?
well, because as the network grows, right, there's fees, and those fees are used to burn Solana, right? They're 50-50 right now. They're 50% go to validators, 50% are used to burn Solana.
How is the 50-50 vector determined?
Yeah,
Is it
I think it's,
is it a consensus? Do I have to, or can it go 70-30? You know,
yeah,
20?
it's not like a committee that determines it. I think it's a little bit like a Bitcoin fork, you know. But
Yeah,
I'm not super familiar with like how changes to Solana happen, you know, but so I'm sort of ignorant on that.
yeah.
But
I think that as you look at the investing in the Solana coin, you
yeah.
really need to have a full understanding of how the
Well, I
Solana
can tell you that the fees have gone up really a lot, right?
yeah.
Those fees were 20 million in 2023 and 300 million in 2024. And they could be at $1 billion this year, right? In fees. So the fee structure is intense, right?
Yeah.
It's growing really fast. So the model really is working, right? They are burning a massive amount of Solana for this thing. Now, there's also inflation in Solana, but that inflation is passed back to you because if you own Solana, you can stake it, and you get 9% by
Right.
staking your Solana. So on top of the price, so
There's a lot of moving parts.
a lot of moving parts. It's not as simple to analyze as there will only be 21 million coins. But I think it's interesting, and it has anything that's growing that kind of speed and is working that well is something I kind of want to own some of. I don't want to. Yeah.
One thing to think about too is I think that I'll start allowing staking in the ETFs, and I think when the ETF gets approved, that'll definitely drive the price up. So I mean, even from a short-term view, I think
Right, and that might happen.
will do well.
That might happen in a month, right?
Yeah, and also, you know how I feel like Wall Street will sort of look at Solana as like the bond dividend yield thing, right? Since it'll have a yield, and the Bitcoin will be like the kind of the gold tech piece, right? So I do think they'll probably allocate to it in some proportion.
Well,
I think people are aware that ETH is kind of dying.
Meta was doing really well. Meta did really well as a stock, right? So I think this does kind of feel like the Facebook of crypto to me. I mean, the analogy is not perfect, but
Yeah.
I'm talking more short term, due to those ETF approvals and staking to be allowed and stuff. I'm still unclear long term. I'm keeping an open mind though, but it's hard for me to envision everything, to be honest.
But
I'm not close minded.
Yeah, but look, I was very close minded 3 months ago. Not on my radar.
That's because that's the one criticism I have of the culture that we are in, is like you're not allowed to consider things. It's considered bad, right? To think about stuff, and I don't know. I like to have an open mind, think about things as you.
So Asteroid, think about the paradigm, and we talked about this earlier this week. Is you have assets held for store of value. That's not what we're talking about. And then the other half is assets stored for utility. And if you go back to Saylor's presentation in Nashville, he made the distinction between store of value and store of utility. And he said, Bitcoin plays today in the store of value. It doesn't play really effectively in the utility. And in fact, his projection out to 2045 had money growing by 8% compounded throughout the forecast. So he wasn't saying that Bitcoin was going to replace money. In fact, he steered very clear away from that. He said,
that's what I was sort of saying.
One of the things
that's what I was saying, though.
He's a very smart guy, right? And he's not afraid to pivot, right?
Freddie, also, you go back to, I don't know when he said it because my memory of time is not good, but he made the term crypto anarchist.
Yeah.
And he was really referring to the OGs who gravitate to the Satoshi white paper around it being a peer-to-peer token. And to me, it's almost like analogous to, Viagra as a blood pressure pill. Well, it's a boner pill now. It's not a blood pressure pill. And Big Pharma has taken it and put it in a different direction from when it was originally designed. And so we could go back, we could have a Bitcoin-based peer-to-peer, but that's not today. And what Howard Lutnick said, and I kind of agree with this, is that we're better off with Bitcoin as a store of value right now, because when you start to threaten money as a system, the politicians get antsy. So as long as it sits as you're competing with gold, which has all of its issues, you can't divide it, you can't verify it, nobody knows how much there is, all that kind of stuff. They're like, yeah, this is a better version of gold, store of value. Let's put it in the same category as art and all the other store of values. And then someday we will go back and look at the transactional capabilities of it. But the 200 million transactions a year is kind of what you're limited to. And unless you do some kind of grand plan, I don't know how you're going to update that.
We're not. And I know the Bitcoin culture. Yeah, the Bitcoin culture is not going to try to change that, right? It's not going to change that. Like, we're not going to, Udi can say whatever he wants about, OpCat and whatever, but the last thing us Bitcoiners want is for Bitcoin to change much, right? We don't want it to, we just want it to stay exactly the way it is and maybe get quantum protected, if that starts becoming an issue.
Right.
That's the only thing we want.
Yeah.
I do think we'll start to use it to buy stuff, though, when it's like millions of dollars. Like, I'll use it to buy a car, I'll go buy a house, right? Like, we will use it, but for big transactions once in a while. Like, that's what I would use it for.
Look,
I'm not going to use it to buy a cup of coffee. Like, why?
Lightning is not going to work, I got to tell you. It's just, like, do you even have a Lightning wallet, Thomas?
No, it's too complicated.
I have a few, but never use them.
I'm like an old guy, right? There's a limit. I'm trying to decomplicate my life. It's like, I just don't. There's a limit to how much I want to further complicate things. So,
and Lightning is complicated. It's not easy.
Well, and it's just you could go do it, but if I was going to spend time doing something like that, I'd rather set up a Bitcoin node in my house. And then learn about how to look at on-chain data that I have access to because I'm running my own node. I would prefer to have that I would rather spend my time doing that. And by the way, the Lightning for me is not solving a problem. Like, I can go to it anywhere and I have lots of credit cards, lots of opportunities to spend money different ways. Last night I went out to dinner and I used
doesn't accept Lightning. She's going to accept her coin.
Yeah. Well, look, every place I go accepts money, $1. So I just I've been using the Fold card recently, and I get Bitcoin rewards. I can keep some of my fiat in Bitcoin and move it around. I'm playing around with it, but it's I just don't. To me, the transactional issue for Bitcoin is there you go. Yeah,
fantastic, right?
It's great, and I like the idea of I'm gamifying and I'm racking up sats. It's to me, it's always a constant reminder of where the world might be going. But I go back to this breakout, the Saylor presentation. He made the point because he wants the ecosystem adopted by TradFi, and TradFi would be threatened if you went after SWIFT and you went after the U.S. money and control of the fiat system. That may come someday, but that's not a battle to fight right now. What you want is full adoption. And we're only in the maybe second inning of TradFi adoption of Bitcoin. You just look at what Larry Fink was saying in Davos about fund allocations of sovereign wealth at 2 to 5%. And then he says, if everybody does that, we're 5, 6, 700,000.
Yeah.
He's not a guy prone to hyperbole in his public comments. So and then you follow Andrew Parrish, right?
Of course. Yeah.
he's pumping out some of the things he's hearing in his conversations. There's a lot of money on the sidelines getting ready to move in. And, and then the other guy I know you follow, you were talking earlier on, even on this restream, Tom Lee, right? And Tom's view is there's a lot of interest in keeping Bitcoin below 100,000 so that capital can get positioned. It's not like they can just flip a switch and move their money overnight.
Because he said that back in like November. Did he actually say that again and reiterate that?
He said it at the beginning of December is the last time I heard him say it.
Yeah. Interesting.
But I don't think
Coinbase wants it to be below 100,000 or something.
No, but just think about this, Asteroid. You have large capital pools with governance structures. It's not like one guy sitting at a keyboard. They have committees, they have policies. The committees have protocols on reviews. We're going to have our first meeting, second meeting, third meeting. That just takes time. And so in order for them to actually then move the money, it takes a while. And in fact, Kathy Wood talked a lot about this right after the ETFs were approved. She said, people will go through a multi-month process, maybe as long as a year, where they will make determinations about risk and allocation. And then when they move glacially, but with certainty and scale. And I just think that's coming. And once they make the determination that they're moving, then I think they're going to move at speeds they haven't moved up to this point. But it still will be slow by day trader standards. So I just, Tom Lee's forecast, and I think I probably would agree with him, is 250 for this year on Bitcoin. When that happens, I would say at third quarter, fourth quarter transition, that's when we'll see that.
Asteroid, what's your view? Where do you see Bitcoin this year?
I built a few models. Some with inflows and some looking at just past historical, and they all came to about 175 to 193. To be honest, one of them just based off of inflows from MicroStrategy and IBIT and stuff, and that one was about 193. And I think that seems fair. I don't remember exactly what all the inflow assumptions were, but it seemed reasonable. I can pull it up somewhere, but I don't know. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think 200 is sort of in the bag.
The one thing I'm thinking about is I'm seeing a lot of kind of signs of economic slowness, right? Starting to kind of take heed. So I'm thinking Trump's going to have to push them to start lowering rates, man, because we're going to have a lot of these deflationary pressures from the deportations, from government cuts. They're going to have to offset it. Otherwise, we're going to be going into a recession. I think they're going to start sending out checks, and that's just going to pump this up. We might be in a slow period for a while, though. It's looking a little bit dicey, unfortunately.
That's the wild card on price is if we have a liquidity crisis, the edge capital,
looks like we might, man, because they need to start loosening this.
People are going to liquidate their Bitcoin holdings to cover other shit. The price of Bitcoin is set at the edge, right? It's the marginal capital showing up, and that marginal capital is fickle. So if they need liquidity, they're gonna sell. The OGs and the people who've had it for a long time, they may not sell, but you're going to see a price dip from where it's at to a much lower number. So the issue really gets to, at what point does Bitcoin become the safe haven versus the risk on asset, where you're deploying risk capital, and then when you need money, that's where you're selling to get liquidity.
Not this year.
I don't think so.
What's interesting is I didn't really run the numbers, but I was kind of just glancing at the charts this week. It seemed to actually be more resilient than the overall market when we had some of that beta data come in, wasn't it? Like, it didn't seem to go down as much as you would think when the Dow like kind of crashed and Bitcoin only went down a little bit. So it's already sort of not responding like it used to. I don't know if it's going to flip though, but you have to run the number on that. But yeah.
All right, guys, I got to hop, but I will talk to you guys later. Hey,
all right, see you, Fred. Have a good day.
See you later. Bye.